He was a rising star, until an accident stole his sight. Now blind and desperate, he's forced to trust the one person he swore he'd never rely on, his estranged brother, freshly out of prison. But is his brother here to help or just using him as a way out? Let's find out. The film begins with a tense judo final between Korea and Japan. Representing Korea is a rising star, Do-young. On the sidelines, his coach Soo-hyun watches nervously, every muscle in her body tense. Do-young starts strong, leading the match with skill and confidence. But in a flash, everything changes. With one swift move, the Japanese player throws him to the ground. Do-young loses the match. But that wasn't the worst part. As he lies on the mat, staring up at the lights, something feels wrong. His vision blurs. The world begins to fade. Later, at the hospital, Soo-hyun receives devastating news. Do-young's optic nerve has been severely damaged during the fall. There is no cure. From this moment on, Do-young is blind. Soo-hyun is crushed. The story shifts to a prison cell. Inside is Do-sik, Do-young's older brother. He's been behind bars for years, locked up for scamming people out of their money. Now, he's applying for parole. If the officers approve, he could be released early under special conditions. During the interview, Do-sik puts on an act. He says all the right words, pretending to regret his crimes. Then he pulls out a newspaper article, a story about his younger brother going blind after a judo match. He pleads with the officers, let him out so he can take care of his brother. Their parents are gone. There's no one else. Moved by the story, the officers agree. Do-sik walks free. But the man who returns home is not the kind brother he pretended to be. In truth, he doesn't care about Do-young. They haven't spoken in 15 years. There's no warmth between them. When he enters Do-young's room, the air is cold. The brothers curse at each other, full of bitterness and old resentment. Later, Do-sik makes a bowl of noodles for himself and eats alone, without offering any to his blind brother. He tells Do-young plainly, don't expect anything from me. Let's just live together for a year. After that, we will lead our separate lives. Do-young lay in silence, wounded by his brother's words. That night, hunger strikes him. He walks to the kitchen, but he can't see. He can't even find the stove. In the end, he eats raw noodles straight from the bag. The house that was once familiar is now a maze. Every step is a struggle. He trips and breaks things. And Do-young, once a shining athlete, is now a boy lost in his own home, blind and utterly alone. Later that night, Do-sik comes home and finds Do-young sitting helplessly on the floor, still struggling to move around. But instead of helping, he mocks him. He watches in silence as Do-young heads back into his room, and only then, once the door shuts, does Do-sik quietly enter his own room. Maybe, deep down, he isn't completely heartless. The next morning, Soo-hyun visits Do-young's home. She notices the front door left open and walks in, worried. Inside, she finds Do-young fast asleep. Without waking him, she starts tidying the messy house. She even prepares a warm, comforting meal, something Do-young hasn't had in a long time. But then, Do-sik barges in. Seeing her there, he scoffs and says, he's not a kid. He doesn't need a babysitter. The two begin to argue. Soo-hyun, tired of his attitude, goes to wake Do-young for lunch, only to find him unconscious. She rushes him to the hospital. Even there, Do-sik shows no concern. He leans over and whispers coldly, I didn't come out to bury you. But if you want to die, then die quietly. Do-young doesn't say a word. But silent tears roll down his face. Soo-hyun can't hold back anymore. She scolds Do-sik for being heartless, for not taking care of his own brother. But he brushes her off with a sneer, saying, then take him, if you care so much. Later that night, Soo-hyun brings Do-young home and cooks for him. As they eat, she sighs and says, what kind of brother is this cruel? But Do-young answers softly, he's my half-brother. The next morning, Do-sik tries to act nice. He places food in front of Do-young and says, eat up so you don't become my burden again. He even brags, saying Do-young should be grateful to have a brother like him. Pushed too far, Do-young suddenly snaps. He spins around, grabs his brother, and throws him down with a judo move, proving that even without sight, he still has strength. Later, Do-sik visits a bank to apply for a loan, planning to use the house as collateral. But there's one problem, he needs Do-young's seal. That night, he comes home acting like a completely different person. He orders fancy food and even feeds it to Do-young, pretending to be a caring brother. Do-young is confused but also touched. He thinks maybe his brother is trying to fix their broken bond. Then Do-sik lies again, saying they need to move their parents' memorial site and it requires both their consent. He asks for Do-young's seal. Hesitant at first, Do-young finally gives in. Do-sik's acting is just that convincing. The next day, Do-sik happily heads to the bank, gets the loan, and wastes no time splurging on a luxury car at a fancy showroom. Meanwhile, Soo-hyun visits Do-young again. She brings him his favorite treat, macarons, hoping to cheer him up. Do-young smiles as he eats, finally feeling a little joy. But when she gently suggests he try judo again, something snaps inside him. He throws the macarons onto the floor and yells, "I can't even walk around this house without bumping into walls. How am I supposed to do judo?" He storms into his room and breaks down, crying. He hits his head against the door, angry at the world, angry at himself. At the same time, Do-sik is living his best life, drinking at a club, driving a fancy car, and flirting with women. But his night is cut short when he tries to take a girl home and is interrupted by Do-young. Then, Do-young picks up his phone and calls the parole officers. "Please take him back to prison," he says. Realizing what's happening, Do-sik grabs the phone and hangs up, panic flashing in his eyes. Later, Soo-hyun meets with Do-sik. Her voice is gentle, but filled with urgency. She pleads with him to talk to Do-young, to encourage him to join the Judo Paralympics. He still has talent, she says, it shouldn't end like this. But Do-sik shrugs coldly. "That's not my problem," he replies without emotion. Soo-hyun frowns. "You two are still family. Don't you care even a little?" Do-sik doesn't answer and leaves. The next day, 2 parole officers arrive at the house to check on Do-sik after receiving Do-young's call. As soon as they walk in, Do-sik changes completely. He plays the role of the perfect older brother, speaking with warmth, pretending to care. The officers are pleased with what they see and leave without suspicion. As soon as they're gone, Do-sik takes Do-young out to the balcony. "You need sunlight," he says. "They said it helps with depression." But Do-young quietly responds, "My depression is because of you." Do-sik freezes for a second. But instead of yelling, he stays quiet. And for the first time, the two begin to talk honestly. Do-young asks, "Do you remember when we used to go to the sauna together every weekend? We always had noodles afterward. It was my favorite time." His voice grows softer. "After you left home, we waited for you. Every day. I even waited at Mom and Dad's funeral, hoping you'd come. But you never did." There's a long silence. "I think it's time we live our own lives," Do-young says. "I've erased you from my heart." Something shifts in Do-sik. He doesn't speak, but the guilt finally begins to show on his face. Later that day, Do-sik brings Do-young to the sauna, just like the old days. He helps his brother scrubs his back. Then Do-young opens up, "I've done every kind of part-time job you can imagine, even worked at the sauna, so I am good at it," he says. Do-young asks, "But why did you leave? We were happy back then." Do-sik hesitates. Then, with a bitter laugh, he says, "One day, I heard the neighbors gossiping about your mom because of my presence. I didn't like hearing that, so I left." For the first time, Do-young sees a glimpse of pain behind why his brother left without a word. And for a brief moment, he starts to understand him. Later, Do-sik brings Do-young to a clothing store. But as they're shopping, a man shoves Do-young without warning, and he falls to the ground. Do-sik immediately demands an apology. But the man sneers, "If your brother is blind, he should stay at home." Something inside Do-sik snaps. He shouts at the man, refusing to let it go. The man pushes him, and Do-sik falls in pain. The situation escalates, and the police get involved. But with both brothers putting on a flawless performance, Do-young acting shaken, and Do-sik groaning in pain, they manage to win compensation. Enough to cover all their new clothes. As they walk home, laughing for the first time in forever, Do-sik grins and says, "Hey, you can call me bro." And just like that, something that once felt impossible begins to heal. Later that night, Soo-hyun shows up at Do-young's place again, still holding on to hope. She gently urges him to consider competing, but he cuts her off, his voice firm but wounded. "I'm not interested," he says. "I don't want people looking at me like I'm broken." Soo-hyun, trying to keep her calm, insists that he has to learn to accept his disability. But Do-young snaps, "If you were in my shoes, you wouldn't say that so easily." The room falls silent. The air is thick with hurt. Do-sik, sensing the tension, steps in and tells Soo-hyun to leave. If he says no, respect that, he says, not unkindly, but with finality. Trying to ease the mood, Do-young suggests they all have dinner together, and Do-sik even invites a neighbor to join them. Over warm dishes and casual chatter, laughter finally bubbles up. For the first time in what feels like forever, Do-young smiles, a real, unguarded smile. As Soo-hyun leaves that night, she quietly tells Do-sik, "I'm glad you two are getting close again. I won't bother him anymore. He looks happier now." That night, Do-sik makes Do-young wash the dishes. "You gotta learn," Do-sik says. "If you want to get married someday, no girl's gonna want a guy who can't even wash a plate." Do-young pauses, then mutters, "Who would marry me now anyway? I'm blind. I've never even dated. Judo was my whole life." Surprised, Do-sik starts giving Do-young dating advice. He gives Du Young a makeover, styles his hair, puts him in a suit. Then, with a mischievous grin, he drags him to a club. Inside, Du Sik vanishes to scout girls, leaving Du Young by the bar. Moments later, a girl approaches. She flirts boldly, even boasting she's a mix of Jennifer Lawrence and Scarlett Johansson. Du Young, innocent and overwhelmed, believes every word, right up until she leans in and kisses him. Just then, Du Sik returns, wide-eyed. "Hey! What are you doing?" He yanks her away and tells Du Young, "Bro, she was lying. If you saw her face, you'd have nightmares." They both burst out laughing, but underneath it, something tender is growing. A bond slowly mending. But fate has other plans. The next day, Du Sik goes for a follow-up at the hospital. The pain from that shove at the mall had prompted tests. The doctor's face is grave. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months left, at most. His heart sinks. Just when he'd finally found peace with his brother. He lashes out, yelling at the doctors, waving his money around as if it could buy him more time. But nothing can. On the way home, he drives in a daze. For a moment, he even thinks about ending it all. That night, he sits alone outside, quietly crying into the dark. He doesn't want Du Young to see his pain. By morning, when he finally returns home, Du Sik finds Du Young fast asleep on the couch. He had waited up for him all night. Then he hears a sharp cry from the kitchen. Du Young tried to fry an egg by himself, but it slipped, burning his foot. Du Sik rushes in and starts scolding him. "Why didn't you ask me to do it?" But Du Young says softly, "I just wanted to make you breakfast." The words hit Du Sik like a punch. His eyes water, but he composes himself before rushing out to buy medicine for his brother's burn. Then, Du Sik takes Du Young to the columbarium to visit their parents. He then asks Du Young to wait in the car. Standing quietly in front of their niche, Du Young's voice trembles as he says, "Your good son has become blind. And now your bad son. He won't live much longer. Who will take care of Du Young when no one is left?" Suddenly, tears spill down Du Young's face. He can't hold back anymore and rushes away, overwhelmed by sorrow. Later, back at home, they sit down for a quiet meal. Du Sik tries to encourage Du Young to start judo again, hoping it will give him strength. But Du Young shakes his head, stubbornly refusing. Seeing this, Du Sik takes him outside for a run. "You have to do something," he says firmly. When Du Young bitterly replies, "Maybe I should just die," Du Sik's face hardens with anger. He raises his hand and slaps Du Young, not out of cruelty, but disbelief. "How can you treat life like it means nothing?" he demands. Du Young lowers his head and admits, "I'm scared." Du Sik's voice softens. "I'll be right here with you." With that, Du Young manages to run for the first time after losing his sight. Later the two lay on the field and Du Sik tells Du Young, "Just try. I promise, I'll fight anyone who dares to mock you." Later, Du Sik meets with Soo Hyun. "We have to make Du Young a professional judo athlete again," he says with determination. Soo Hyun's eyes light up with hope. "But you have to promise me something," Du Sik adds. "You must stay by Du Young's side." Soo Hyun hesitates. "The Paralympic team already has a coach. But you can be his manager, come to his matches." Du Sik says with pain hidden behind his eyes. "I don't have much time left. I have stage 4 cancer. You're the only one Du Young can count on." Soo Hyun's heart aches. Without a second thought, she asks for a transfer to the Paralympic team. Even when the coach resists, she stands firm. "I want to be there for Du Young. I want to see him smile again." And so, Du Young begins training harder every day, chasing the chance to compete again. As time slips away, Du Sik sells his car. And buys a cane for Du Young, so he can learn to walk on his own. He stocks up on food and rearranges everything at home, making sure Du Young's life will be easier. He even modifies the house, removing uneven floors, adding grip poles along the walls. Du Sik wants to make sure that when he's gone, Du Young can move around safely and live independently. Later, when Du Young returns home after his hard training, he notices the house feels different. It's easier to move around now, no more bumping into walls or furniture. For the first time, he feels a little more independent. Soon, Du Sik helps Du Young pack his bags. Du Young is leaving for Brazil to take part in the Olympics. Playfully, Du Young says, "After my match, we should hit a club in Brazil together." Du Sik smiles but then quietly lies, telling Du Young he has a new job in Busan and can't go with him. Du Young nods and encourages him, "Go for it, brother. We'll see each other soon." The day comes for Du Young to fly to Brazil. Du Sik watches him leave with pain in his heart. He knows this might be the last time he sees his younger brother. In Brazil, Du Young makes it to the finals. He calls Du Sik, excited to brag. Hearing his brother's voice lifts Du Sik's spirits, even though his own health is failing. He keeps hiding the truth to stop Du Young from worrying. Meanwhile, a friend quietly admits Do-sik into the hospital and takes care of him. As the finals near, Do-young tells Soo-hyun, "I want to win gold." But inside, fear creeps in. He remembers past pain and thinks about quitting. Soo-hyun looks at him gently. "If you're not ready, it's okay to quit. But when you do, your brother may not be around anymore." Then she tells him the truth. Do-young breaks down and he insists on going home to see his brother. Soo-hyun shakes her head. "He didn't tell you because he didn't want you to lose hope. It's his last wish for you to fight and live well, even without him." Hearing this, Do-young's fear turns into determination. He decides to play the final match. Before the game, he calls Do-sik. He tells him, "I'll bring home the gold medal. Wait for me, okay?" Then Do-young quietly admits, "I know the truth now." They both break down, tears flowing freely. So much left unsaid, so little time. Neither knows if they will see each other again. After the phone call, Do-young heads to the final match, his heart set on winning the medal. Meanwhile, Do-sik and his friend watch the match from the hospital, cheering for Do-young with all their strength, even though they cannot be there in person. At first, the match doesn't go well. Do-young's opponent takes the lead. But before the final round, Do-young remembers his brother's advice and all the moments they shared. Those memories light a fire inside him. With fierce determination, he fights back, and wins. The crowd erupts in joy, celebrating Do-young's victory. But Do-young doesn't stand, he drops to the ground, tears streaming down his face as he cries out, "Bro." It's a message only Do-sik can hear, he has finally won. The moment is sweet but heavy, filled with both triumph and sorrow. When Do-young returns to Korea, Do-sik has already passed on. Now, Do-sik's friend cares for him, just as his brother wished. One day, the friend hands Do-young a tape recorder. Sitting alone on the patio, Do-young listens to his brother's voice. Do-sik tells him he is never truly alone. Even if their parents and he are gone, their love will always be with Do-young. And someday, they will meet again. Until then, Do-young must take care of himself. As the words sink in, Do-young's tears fall freely. Time passes, and slowly, he learns to do everything alone, making breakfast, dressing himself, all the little things his brother dreamed he would. And though the pain never fully fades, Do-young knows he carries his brother's strength inside him forever.